It has been 9 months since I last covered this series, and after so many questions on when part 4 would be released and when the series will proceed in general, today is finally the day I cover the final part of what if Isagi got Hioris' advice early. We left off with Isagi and Rin teaming up in the third selection and going undefeated in matches with their combined efforts, and of course Isagi's understanding of this currently unnamed ability we all know as Metavision. He's coming to terms with the drawbacks of this ability, something he can only actively utilize with the use of his flow state due to his lack of physicality, and he got to this position with the premise of this entire series of thinking reflexively, or in other translations, doing the steps of moving, thinking, and seeing in reverse or in conjunction to one another. Finally, the last vital change following the last part was that Baru was replacing Otoya in the starting formation of Blue Lock's team due to this team focusing around Rin and Isagi's collective strengths instead of primarily focusing on Rin's abilities. So before we get into the final part of this What If series, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. All support is greatly appreciated, and if you have one of my What Ifs you would like to see me continue, support all installments of those videos as well. The day of Blue Lock versus the Japan U20 team has arrived, and our players enter into the corridor to prepare the make or break, the do or die for Blue Lock's existence. After introductions and national anthems have finished, it was time for the kickoff, starting with Blue Lock's side. Isagi and Rin knew their strategy, setting up foundation in a circular triangular formation, but Isagi, with his ever-expanding routes and possibilities, seek to go beyond this idea. Whilst tapping into Metavision constantly would drain him of all of his stamina, he has put his reflexive thinking into practice commonly, and is now pushing to the front way earlier than any defender could keep up with, and instead of Bachida, he passes back to Chigiri. He needed Chigiri's speed to keep up with his own lack of hesitation and sent for a goal spot, and with that focus on physicality, Isagi was also a faster, more coordinated, and more responsive player. Chigiri delivers a centering pass over to Isagi, low enough for Isagi to trap before IQ can intervene, as this time Isagi wouldn't go for the goal instantly. It was not currently within his capacity, as he wasn't aware of Japan's Iron Wall defense's capabilities. He plays it smart and makes a through pass to Rin on his right, just as Rin managed to shake off Neo. This would lead to IQ positioning himself between the pair of egoists, but now even Nagi was approaching the goal box. IQ had no way to compensate for the three players, so he needed to directly go after Rin and block off his routes, which gave Isagi a clear path to the goal. Rin makes a tight shot onto the goal, but is deflected by IQ, and after the ball hits the post, the loose ball lands to Isagi, in which he is about to shoot, but Sai is now seen on his tail. Isagi can outreach Sai by being just one step ahead, but Sai Itoshi, like the original, would bump Isagi off balance, shattering his possibilities of scoring. But the change in this instance was that Baru was now also on the front lines. He snatched the broken opportunity from Isagi to reforge it. A light faded into darkness for the king to thrive, scoring the first goal of the match to the shock of Sai Itoshi and all in attendance in the arena, aside from Isagi and Ego Jinpachi. Isagi had little chance of scoring, but at least he would be able to play as the bait to draw all the attention from Japan's prodigy, as Nagi and Rin handled the other defenders. The score was at 1-0 for Blue Lock, and Isagi is motivated to get the next goal. Sai has seemingly underestimated the team. Since they were already performing at a higher level than the original story, he had no choice but to up the ante. He wouldn't allow the Japan U20 team to make more than one error, so if he had to, he would be the one to score. Sai, upon getting the next ball, does a precise pass to the front into Kenta's possession. The same instance of how Sai sets up for his first goal still happens, but now Isagi was getting involved in defense. Thanks to that higher level of spatial awareness, he is able to more accurately depict the goal spots on the field his opponents can take advantage of. Isagi was now actively anticipating Sai to prevent him from making his original story goal by standing in the very spot Sai would shoot from. All the while Chigiri made up the distance and intercepted the ball, an action that left Sai slightly stunned, but he quickly regained his composure. Isagi had a lot of ground to make up for now that he was on the other side of the pitch. Chigiri would get the ball back upfield, but Isagi won't be there in time for an attack. So Karasu compensates and goes into Isagi's offensive midfielding position. Chigiri makes another cross, but this time over to Nagi, who traps the ball in front of Neo and propels it diagonally over to Yukimiya on the left wing. Tepe of course stands as his opposition, and this acts like their first encounter to one another, where Yukimiya is taken aback by Tepe's speedy defense. Tepe's interception leads to Nagi picking up the slack, and now he's actually shoulder to shoulder with the bulky Neo. Karasu calls for a pass and Nagi obliges, but IQ cuts off the passing route just before Karasu gets the incoming ball. It's becoming evident that Japan's iron defense is now more conditioned for the pushes, but maybe it was because of Isagi not being on the front lines, so no one could effectively come up with a strategy to break through. IQ, who was about to pass to Sai realizes that Sai was being pinned by Isagi. This change in formation made Isagi now the primary person capable of limiting Sai's options, and this is much more effective than Karasu can be because now Isagi for the time being was using Metavision. Even so, Metavision is still not enough to overcome the gap of Japan's prodigy player, but it makes it much easier for the rest of Blue Lock's team to stop his attacks, starting from his passes. Sai admires Isagi's talents and admits that he's beyond the majority of players on the field with those eyes, but he too was experienced with that level of football. It's not confirmed that Sai Itoshi has Metavision, it's only highly speculated by Isagi himself and theorized by audience members of the Blue Lock series, but there's no doubt that Sai likely has the experience of dealing with users of Metavision throughout his professional career, and thankfully for Sai, he still has the physical advantage over a Metavision Isagi who still needs to tap into his flow state in order to use the ability. Isagi was also being extremely wary with the weapon. Overuse of this ability, as he knows from previous matches he's had, has immense drawbacks to his stamina gauge and would be catastrophic to occur this early into this important match. Sai was able to get the pass ball from Aiku by separating from Isagi more so than he expected, and then does an elastico around our main character, but Isagi didn't leave much margin for error as he responded quickly by staying on Sai's tail. Sai ups the ante even more and stalls back and nutmegs Isagi to Isagi's utter dismay. He was seemingly getting too arrogant, thinking that he could take on Sai on his own, but he managed to stall him long enough for Rin to intervene, and from this they do their initial match off where it looked like Isagi and Rin are sharing the same level of challenge against Sai in different ways. Isagi has a problem physically. He has the mindset to keep up with Sai's innovation but lacks the physicality to take advantage, hence why he needed someone like Chigiri to stop Sai from scoring, whilst Rin can prepare for Sai's professional football techniques. This instance overall leads to Sai Itoshi not giving the U20 strikers the time of day. He instead forces them to make a pass back to him, which leads to a curve shot to the top left corner that Gargamaro could not save. The score was now 1-1, but Blue Lock started with this next ball with enough time on the clock to get a goal lead. Factoring in that Nagi has yet to score like he did in the original, and Rin clearly wants to get one over his brother, but without needing to replicate what would be a tricky shot for him to pull off, who would get this next goal? Well, the restart leads to a decision from Karasu. He is still the foundation of this team's offense and defense, so he needed to make a solid call on who would be the best player to take the ball. Yukimiya was tempting, but he was at a speed disadvantage. Nagi had a battle against brute muscle, Baru was being monitored by players even on the midfield due to his unorthodox playstyle, and Isagi and Rin had IQ to deal with. So he took it upon himself, rushing forward to execute his unique dribbling style to break through the defensive midfielders and make a pass over to Chigiri for assistance. Chigiri gets to the end of his dash and tries passing back to Karasu, however this is where Sai could see an interception, but so could Isagi. Karasu was shocked twice over seeing Sai and Isagi gunning for his opportunity, and Isagi sets himself up for a direct shot, but it's deflected by Oliver Aiku. The ball lands to Rin, who swiftly replicates his brother's curve shot to the upper left corner of the net for Blue Lock's point advantage. The halftime whistle blows in this instance earlier than usual, with a current score at 2-1. Of course, quite predictably, the same events of the halftime occur, aside from one big change. Ego personally pulls Isagi aside for an interaction, one that goes unknown to the rest of the team. For the rest of this match, Yuichi, use that strength of yours. Surge to the top and let your aspirations carry you further than what your body can withstand. Do that without falter, and this game will end in our victory. And that is no prediction. That is a spoiler. Isagi seems slightly bewildered, sacrificing his physicality for the sake of maintaining this weapon that overcame the likes of Rin and challenged the World 5. He wasn't ready to bow out and was thinking of preserving himself to the final moments, but Ego wants him to use this weapon for the whole second half? Why? Shido, as we should all guess, is brought on to help the Japan U20 team claw at a victory, and whilst his original goal and substitutes of Blue Lock characters Chigiri and Nico for Hiyori and Reo stay the same, what doesn't stay the same is Isagi's whole body language. Rin is tempted to comment on Isagi's almost too composed state, but Isagi has rapidly taken in the field of play, routes to goal spots instead of just the spots themselves. Each player, and even the newest goal scorer of Shido, are all being factored into his equations. Rin seems intimidated. He knew this side of Isagi from the second selection, and Isagi broke almost instantly every time he used this ability. But Isagi has not moved enough to strain himself the entire time, since Isagi has found his own interpretation of using this ability for now. Study, gather, perform, adapt, win. The restart ball for Blue Lock now has the merit of a defensive winger being highly capable of providing passes to the front lines. Hioris gets the ball from Isagi himself, and Hioris responds appropriately. He has many options at his disposal, but only one has an unwavering route to the goal, and that was Isagi. Aiku stood in Isagi's path, but it was too late. Shido's flow state has yet to happen, and therefore has yet to be the catalyst to light the fire under his new teammates. So in this match, Isagi was the first person visible enough to tell that he was entering into his flow state. Whilst tapping into this state briefly was easy to do, not just because Isagi's experienced with it now, but preserving his stamina alongside it, maintaining it would only work if everything that Isagi would do from here on out would be heavily optimized. Isagi looked as if he was about to physically challenge Aiku. The defender didn't expect this approach from someone who is far outmatched in this category, but Isagi seemed too far in this motion to stop. Or well, that was only supposed, as Isagi had stepped away from Aiku at the final moment as the ball went over the pair's heads in a precise key pass as if Sai Itoshi struck the ball. Off the ball movements, blind spots, and spatial awareness, all combined with reflexive thinking, has made this one-on-one a cinch. Isagi shoots the precise moment he was able to, a direct shot that gets the goal, and lands Blue Lock their third point. Now let's be honest guys, with a Metavision Isagi alongside a Baru that's already on the pitch, do you really think this would end in Japan U20's favour? To summarise, Sai and Shido very well could get another goal for their team, but what will stop Blue Lock from just overwhelming Japan's team's defence, playing into that ideal structure Ego wanted, score more goals than the opposing team. And what keeps Isagi from overexerting himself was the physicality training on a consistent basis since finishing the second selection, alongside his adrenaline fueling him to push past the strain to win this game for Blue Lock, which also makes him an overwhelming obstacle for the Japan U20 team that only allows the likes of Sai Itoshi to combat with, especially when Sai starts getting serious. So Blue Lock with this offensive advantage manages to secure 2 more goals. One scored by Nagi thanks to the now upgraded chemical reaction with Isagi, who can now see so many more of Nagi's possible goal scoring routes, and the final goal scored by Isagi of course using Rin Otoshi's awakening fueled by his hideous desires, revolving around the sickening companionship of his teammates and the expectations of his brother. The game ends at a score of 5-3 for Blue Lock, a much more substantial and dominant performance compared to the original that leaves Isagi more prepared than ever for the NAL arc, which therefore leaves Rin working hard as hell to try and keep up with his new rival. Then the events of the NAL arc conclude the drastic changes that this what if scenario provided, as Isagi just has an easier time with combating with the likes of Kaiser as a rival and all of his opposing teams thanks to his improved physicality and better understanding of his Metavision ability. But of course he wouldn't be able to confront his other weaknesses and gaps of knowledge without the events of the NAL arc driving his discoveries of other players' mentalities, ideals, and why the gap between him and Rin alongside other physically gifted players was so obvious. Basically, Isagi will have an easier time, and eventually it will all fall back into place with the current level of Isagi the further you get into the series, aside from Isagi's experience with his now fully developed Metavision being older than it originally was. But this is how I see the ending of this what if going. How do you guys think Isagi would perform in the NAL if he unlocked Metavision early? Would he have scored more goals, or would he become even more of a target than usual for the opposing teams to shut him out? And how would he fare against a Rin who better understands Metavision as an ability, and more specifically how Isagi uses it? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below, and once again be sure to hit that like and subscribe button for more videos and even more what ifs. This has been the final part of what if Isagi got Hioris' advice early.